Okay, new pasuk. Yud Tes Zion, 1916. Shomer mitzvah shomer nafsho boze drachav yamus. And this is a kri ksiv. So the ksiv says yumas, and the kri says yamus. So how would we translate this? And there are ambiguities here, so beware.
Before I saw it and I just heard you reading it, I thought you said Boza Bracha Yamus.
Oh,
And I was like, that's kind of
yeah.
cool. It was like it was a good pasuk. I mean, still good,
That's
but
funny. Maybe that'll be included in the idea. We'll see.
yeah, I would translate this as one who watches the mitzvos, guards the mitzvos.
Okay. I'm going to say singular because it's singular here.
Mitzvah, yeah. Is one who guards his soul.
Okay. Guards his soul.
One who disgraces his ways will die.
Okay. One who disgraces his ways will die. Okay, good. All right. So, yeah, I like how you said watches or guards because those are both legitimate meanings of shomer. So there is an ambiguity here, though. Okay. As you'll see from Sadigon, well, there's multiple ambiguities, but Sadigon says, Misha Shamar es mitzvah. So one who guarded, I guess, a mitzvah. Shamar nafsho has guarded his soul. Umisha baza der Hashem yoved, and
Yeah,
one
so
who
that's why
disgraces.
when
Yeah.
I translated, I said one who disgraces his ways. Like I think I tried to keep the ambiguity if it's his
Yeah. So
own
no, you
ways
were
or
right to
the
keep the
ways of the
ambiguity.
mitzvah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one who disgraces the way of Hashem will die. Okay, and we'll spell this out in the form of a question in a second. But let's just look at the English translations here. Our scroll says, "One he who observes a commandment safeguards his soul." So I don't like the fact that they use the word observe. I know we say that for like being shomer a mitzvah. Okay, fine. Actually, I'll add that here. One who keeps a mitzvah. I guess that's fine also. Um, okay. And one who disgraces the way of Hashem will die. Okay, oh sorry, wait, I just read that. He who observes the commandment safeguards his soul. One who scorns his, and then they say proper ways will die. Okay, so not sure what they mean by that. Living Lock says he who keeps the commandments protects himself. I guess that fits into our guards. But he who is negligent of his ways will die. Negligent. I don't know where they get negligent from. I've never seen boza mean negligence, so I'm skeptical of that one. Ultra says,
Well, I think the negligence. I think it contrasts with the shomer pretty well. Like that's
"Oh, I hear what
probably
you're saying."
why they did that.
Okay, that's a good move, right? Meaning it's the opposite of shomer. Yeah, it's just
Right.
so in the pasuk it makes sense. I just have never heard that used,
Right. Right.
as a
But
translation.
that's right. It's probably what
Yeah, that makes
motivated them.
sense. Alter says, "Who keeps a command keeps his own life. Who scorns his own ways will die, not day, will die." So this is really where we get to this ambiguity here. I'm actually going to delete these because I think we've got them covered. So the question is like this, okay? Who is the pronoun in drachav? Okay, so we have three possibilities. I think we have three possibilities, right? Is one is Hashem's ways. Two is his own ways, and I think there's a third possibility.
The mitzvah's ways?
That would be dracheha. Anyone?
Maybe if he, maybe his shmira.
That would also be feminine.
Okay.
So I think the other possibility is the ways of the shomer mitzvah. Meaning,
It's kind of what I said.
Bringing in another party.
Oh, no, not bringing in another party. The pasuk is talking about two people. Shomer mitzvah, shomer nafsho. So one who guards the mitzvah guards his soul, and then Boze drachav yamus, and the one who disparages his ways will die. Meaning the one who disparages the ways of the shomer mitzvah. So it's describing an interaction here.
Mhm.
And Joe, I can see what you mean when you said that it is disparaging his shmira of the mitzvah, but I guess maybe I just interpreted what you said wrong. Is I thought it was talking about disparaging the phenomenon of shmiras mitzvah, but this is saying it's disparaging the guy who is the shomer mitzvah guy.
Right. So I meant really disparaging himself, but particularly vis-a-vis his own shmira.
Okay, so that is like a combination of like B and C, meaning it's his own
Right.
ways, but his own shmira mitzvah ways. Okay, I hear that, and it might functionally be the same as shomer, as saying it's talking about the shomer mitzvah.
Right. Yeah, but no, there's definitely a difference though, because it's two people.
Yeah. Okay, so that is question number one. All right, what else do we have? Oh, obviously we have to ask, what does shomer mean in this context? And one of the things I didn't like about the Art Scroll translation is I forgot what it said already, but like I feel
Observes.
like observes. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. So one who observes mitzvah safeguards his soul. I feel like when we know that it's a common Mishleic move to use synonyms to avoid like repetition. So when it does use the exact same term, I feel like it's using it in the same way. In other words,
Yeah,
however
it's
we
like
translate
creating a
shomer,
parallel between the two.
yeah, it's creating a parallel, right? So it doesn't mean it has to be the exact same way, but at least the same translation, so otherwise we would just use something different. So what does shomer mean in this context? I should say, as applied to both mitzvah and nefesh and nafsho.
I'm gonna say it's observes, and was one who observes a mitzvah observes his soul.
You could say that. I mean, you could say that. I mean, I know in English we use the word observe to be watch. I mean, it's a good question. This is one of these difficult cases to see how flexible the terms are in both languages. Because if they like observe in English means to watch with your eyes, but then in Hebrew, shomer mitzvah also means to observe, and it also means to watch, but like to guard.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I think mitzvah only means observe in the non-usual translation of like that observe a mitzvah usually is I don't think mitzvah is like observing in like the watching sense, because I think that's
Yeah.
like that would be more like Riyah or something.
Yeah, right. So I guess one other question, which is, I guess you could say this as another question, but what is the difference between shomer mitzvah and then let's say like oseh mitzvah or shomea mitzvah? Meaning like shomer seems to imply a specific type of way of relating to a mitzvah.
So I don't know if this is shot, and I don't really have a background or any sort of proof to say this. It's just like my preference, I guess. I like the word shomer for mitzvos, or like guard, or particularly the translation as observe. Regarding lotases more than ases. I just feel like it's much more accurate. Like you're like a lotase is almost like you're avoiding something by not doing that action. So it's much more to me like just the way I think about it, of an observance.
Yeah, I definitely hear that that implication, and I also can't prove it, but it rings reasonable.
I think don't Chazal say about the like Zachor and Shomor, like it's the Ases and the Los Ases?
That does ring a bell also. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So if Chazal say it, then that's a good basis.
What? Right. Oh yeah, they definitely say. Oh yeah, it's true. But I think, are they saying that as just why there's specifically two Lashonos? I mean, obviously they say it the way they say it, as this one is this one, this one is this one.
I mean, I thought Zev, to your recollection, are they saying that about Shabbos specifically or as a universal?
Oh, I think it was Shabbos specifically.
Yeah,
but
right.
Shomor did refer to the Los Ases of Shabbos.
Right. Same thing with Amalek, right? Zachor bapeh al tishkach balev. And there's an assay to remind ourselves of Amalek, and then a los assay to forget, and it uses the same. Sorry, that's not all. It doesn't say Shomer though. What am I saying? Never mind. Forget that. Yeah. Okay. What else do we have to ask here?
Well, what does it mean you're going to die? Like what kind of death?
What does it mean, Yamus? oops, yamus, is this literal or figurative? What kind of death? Yeah. Also, how, like, what's is the cause and effect relationship between Bose? This could be another question, but I'm just going to add one between Bose Drachav and Yamus. And then also, just as a minor question, why does the Ksiv say Yumas? And that's a question that I typically wouldn't ask, but Rabbeinu Yonah's derech with Krieg Sivs and Mishlei is that it's like it's hinting at another idea, like that the Kri is the real meaning, and then the Ksiv is like alluding to some other dimension of the idea that's like a minor point, a nuance.
I like that theory.
Yeah. All right. I think we also have to ask what is nefesh in this context, and presumably it's going to be presumably it's going to be the opposite, or it's going to be related to Yumas, right? So like, what is the relationship between Shmiras HaNefesh and Yamus? And then we didn't actually ask, what does it mean to be Boza Drachav? What is the Zion? I feel like we're missing one more question. Shomer Mitzvah. We asked what Shmiras Mitzvah is. Yeah. We asked what Shomer Nafsho is. Boza Drachav, Yamus. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh yeah, I know the question.
Did we ask about mitzvahs?
No, we didn't. That's exactly the question we're missing. Okay, so what does mitzvah mean in this context? Now, I feel like we've done this. Maybe it was on our Monday shir, but like in Mishlei, I think there are going to be three main possibilities for how we interpret mitzvah. What would you say?
I guess like an individual tzivoy.
Okay, so one of when you say tzivoy, you mean like taryag?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
one
okay.
of the 613
Yeah.
commandments.
Yeah. What's another possibility?
Just a general like way of the Torah, maybe
Okay, that could
Like-
be true. So it could be Torah.
like a
and it's
hashkafic
required.
type of mitzvah, you know?
Yeah.
A non-Torah imperative.
Yeah, and the other one is a non-Torah imperative. Okay, right. For example, Shlomo always says mitzvos avicha, meaning like your parents' mitzvah, or let's say like any other like commandment in another context. Presumably any other good commandment in another context, because we're not talking about like following
Any old
the
commandment.
Yeah, we're not talking about like following the edicts of like a tyrant or something. Okay, I think these are our questions. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of ambiguity here. So we kind of have to like, this is like a pasuk where you have to like plant your flag, like take a stance on one of these things and then like explore that route. So the question is like which I feel like I actually feel like this question here of the drachav is going to be the most central question, in the sense that the way we approach the other things will flow from this one.
I feel like it also has the largest variability.
Yes, yeah. So what do we want to say? Well, what approach? Well, first of all, I guess, is there one that jumps out to you as more defensible than the other, or are they all equal? If they're all equal, then we can arbitrarily pick one. But if you think you have evidence for why it's one over the other, then
well, I think this question is correlated with 6.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I hear that.
Yeah, like I don't think we should be thinking about these in isolation, because like it's not going to be Bozeh Hashem's ways, but it's talking about a non-Torah mitzvah. You know?
Okay, so that's an interesting thing, because what I was going to say is my problem with saying Drachav is Hashem's ways is that the pasuk doesn't mention Hashem. But if you say that mitzvah is the mitzvah of Hashem, then it doesn't need to mention Hashem. So if you say mitzvah is mitzvahs of Hashem, or mitzvah means Torah in general, then the pronoun would make the most sense to be God's ways. But then if you say that drachav is referring to the only, so if that pronoun is referring to the only antecedent in the pasuk, then the only antecedent in the pasuk is the guy who is being shomer mitzvah and shomer nafsho. So then that lends support to B. And then, so that's the strength of that one. And then the strength of the third approach is if you say that the pasuk is talking about a chacham and a fool, like a stereotypical Mishlei pasuk. So then the first half is talking about one type of person, and the second half is talking about another type of person. And that still tolerates answer number B, like boze drachav, one who's boze his own ways, but it could also it could also tolerate the reading of C, I just don't know why a person would be boze his own drachav, like however we say boze does seem to be a conscious, intent-driven action, like, well, I guess it doesn't have to be, right? But let's say like Vayivas Esav Esa Bechora, like Esav was Mavaza the birthright, or like being Mavaza Talmidei Chachamim, is like you are, or let's say in Mishlei itself is Yiras Hashem Reishis Das Chacham Musar Evilim Bazu, that they that fools despise or scorn wisdom and discipline, so it's like a conscious thing. So I feel like the general meaning of bizui doesn't seem like you're going to be mavaza your own ways, unless you take it like the living Nach did of like neglect. But again, I don't like that as mavaza, even though it's the opposite of shomer.
Well, I was saying that maybe you could do you could say that the bizoi is that you're scorning what's good for you, and like the way that what really should be your ways is what you're scorning.
Yeah.
And that's why it's saying you're scorning your ways, because you're like you're going off the derech.
Yeah, right. No, so
yeah.
That might be also what Art Scroll said when it mentioned one who scorns his proper ways, and I believe they get that from the Mitzudas David. So let me just show you the Mitzudas David really quickly here. Mitzudas David says, Boze drachav hamavaza es hadrachim haruuyim elav, the ways that are proper to him, yamus below ito, he will die prematurely. So that's like what you're saying, Isaac, right? Like these should be his ways, and he's scorning them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I mean, I think this is similar to what Isaac was saying, and this is probably too specific to be pshat in the pasuk, but just I feel like if a person is like, in a conflictual state between his doing mitzvos and his not doing mitzvos, he could kind of, it's like almost like a defense mechanism to like, defend his, not mitzvah ways.
Right.
So, scorn his own ways with the mitzvos to like kind of, comfort himself in going further away from them.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand what you're saying here. So if you're in conflict about whether or not to keep mitzvos in general or a particular mitzvah, then as a defense mechanism, you will say it one more time. I something is not clicking.
Yeah. So as if you're in conflict about doing mitzvos and not, and you sort of do both, as a defense mechanism to move further away from the mitzvos, you're going to mock your own ways in doing the mitzvos. Because you have a negative judgment about it, you're going to do it less.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay, Which also, I don't know if this is pshat in the pasuk by Esav, but like it almost would make sense, that he like mocks the bechora because of the fact that he like, wants to justify himself in selling it for some soup. Whereas obviously later on he was, going to regret that decision.
So the interesting thing is emerging from here also, which is that maybe these are not really three. I can see pairings. For example, according to what Isaac was saying, Hashem's ways and his own ways that are proper for him really mean the same thing, right? Meaning, even if you don't say that this is talking about literally a mitzvah, like if this is talking about like good imperatives, then Hashem's ways and his own proper ways, I think, are the same. But then according to the way Joe's saying, is then really all three really go together. Wait, can we say all three go together? Like, let's say you have some sort of conflict with mitzvos. So you're scorning Hashem's ways, which are the mitzvos. You're scorning your own ways that are proper to you, and then you would also scorn the ways of someone who is keeping mitzvos. Like, let's say, for example, you are in conflict about doing the mitzvos, and then you confront. There's a guy who's like a shomer mitzvah guy. That guy's going to bother you. You know, the fact that he's like a he's a goody two shoes mitzvah wise. You know,
Right.
you know, so like because he reminds you of your own inadequacy of or laxity in like keeping the mitzvahs.
Yeah.
So that I feel like is the most promising approach, that we can interpret this and preserve the ambiguity because it doesn't matter. Meaning that we're talking about someone who. So the second half of the pasuk is describing someone who has a bizionish attitude towards mitzvos, right? Towards like regimented commandments that are proper for him, and he will be bothered by the mitzvos themselves, by the fact that they're commanded by Hashem, or by how they're like embodied in someone who is vigilant or diligent about the mitzvos.
Yeah.
Okay.
That definitely. Yeah, I like it.
Okay, good. So that I think it does address 1 and 6. Okay. So now the question is, so we didn't actually ask, by the way, why is he mivaze, or why is he boze, right? So that question we answered. We didn't really say how it expresses itself. So where do we go from here then? So I guess we could go to yamus, but I think in order to do yamus, we would really have to say how to shomer mitzvah, shomer nafsho, because then the yamus would just be the opposite of that, I think. And see here, I don't see a reason. You know, I still feel the vibe that Joe said about the los ases. I don't see any need from the pasuk itself to differentiate between ases and los ases. Like I feel like this would also apply to all the mitzvos.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I was just saying more of like a
right, just
general
the
thing.
context in the word. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't thought about the shomer nafsho and yamus.
Okay.
So I'm reminded of the Meiri on 10.2.
Okay.
Where he says that he says that death is when a pasuk says death, it means like bad things, like even until death, not specifically death. So
okay, good.
So okay, I think I don't exactly like. I still don't have like exactly what the pasuk will be saying, but
yeah.
I think shomer nafsho and yamus are not like, it's not saying this is life and death specifically, but it's extremes of like, I'd say good and bad.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let me just see if I can dig up that Meiri. No, I can't right now. But yeah, so just to summarize here, that Meiri says that when Mishlei says like Misa and Chaim, Misa is referring to all bad things that can happen to you: poverty, sickness, destruction, and death as the most extreme example. And then Chaim refers to like health, wealth, happiness, life, and all those good things. And I think that is he said it as like an idiom, which means he's not taking it as a metaphor. He's saying that that's just like an idiom. Like when we say, for example, when we say like l'chaim, we don't mean like to biological life, to like continued brain function. Like we mean like to a successful life, like a flourishing life, or like when Hashem says, I don't think, I mean, maybe there are some who take it like that. I don't think he means like choose to like die right now, or like choose to be alive right now. I think he means like good life and bad, and bad life. So I think that's
reasonable. Hashem is pro-life.
Yes, Hashem is definitely pro-life. Yeah. Okay, so shomer mitzvah, shomer nafsho. So if we took that in isolation, I think, I mean, maybe at risk of being very simple, like mitzvos are designed to provide you with a flourishing life. And so when you keep mitzvos, you're keeping them for your own self-interest, like it is in your own self-interest to keep mitzvos. So that's not a chiddush, but like maybe the chiddush is only in the second half, So like could we try that out and see if it works? Meaning shomer mitzvah, shomer nafsho means that the guy who's keeping the mitzvah is just doing what's in his own best self-interest. Like it's going to benefit his life, benefit / protect. Meaning I think that's why shomer nafsho is a good medium. So then what would the chiddush be in the second half? That one who's boze these drachim is going to die. Like, or what's the idea of the pasuk according to this?
Well, once you say that first half, doesn't the second half just become obvious? Like it's just the flip side.
Yeah, but so then that's why I'm saying like we either need a chiddush that emerges from the second half, or we need a chiddush that emerges from the pasuk as a whole. Because I do think it's a little too obvious.
Right.
And I feel like it's going to be in the bizayon. Like bizayon is more than okay. Maybe this is another move here. Okay, shomer mitzvah is the person who's keeping the mitzvos. What would be the most immediate opposite to keeping the mitzvos is not keeping the mitzvos. But bizayon is like going beyond that, Like why would you have to be mivazeh the mitzvos? And I think we also we've encountered this in real life. Like there are people who just are not, not shomer halacha, but they're not like antagonistic towards it. They just are not religious. And then there's people who are like anti halacha, either in terms of they mock it or they mock people who are religious. I feel like that's what Mishlei is talking about here. So what is it that drives the guy to mock? And I think like Joe, your intuition about the defense mechanism, again, not to go entirely into psychology and say that's the whole idea, but like, there is like there's something prompting him to be mivazeh as opposed to just neglecting,
Right. I mean, also, I don't know if there's necessarily evidence for this, but is it possible that the guy who's being mivazeh, maybe he actually even is shomer, and like that's the chiddush, that if you're shomer, but you're shomer and mivazeh, you're not going to get the benefits. Meaning the mitzvos are not just like a magic trick that like if you shake a lulav, you get happiness, and if you give tzedakah, you're going to get rich. Like it's not, it's not just a basic thing like that.
Yeah.
The whole system is only going to give you the benefits if you're shomer it mentally also.
Okay.
So if you're shomer but mavazeh, you're not doing it. I mean, you're doing something, but you're not going to get that benefit of chaim.
Okay. So it's funny thing is that the idea that you're saying right now, it ends up being the same idea that. So I did prepare this one with Ken. So I'm going to tell you the idea that Ken and I came up with, even though it reads the pasuk in a different way, and that might help us to clarify both approaches. Okay. So and this is not in any of the mafarshim. So this is just what Ken and I came up with. So we wanted to say that shomer mitzvah. So here are our premises. Okay, that there's a shomer mitzvah that's on one extreme. Then there's the guy who just like does the mitzvos, and then there's the guy who is boze the shomer mitzvah. Okay, so how do we say it? So what does it mean to be shomer mitzvah? So what we said is shomer mitzvah is someone who not only does the mitzvahs, but does it consistently. Like there is a guy who will, and I'm gonna extend this to a non-mitzvah example. I'm not saying that the pasuk is necessarily talking about that, but let's say like there's a guy who will, let's say he stops at a red light 95% of the time. Okay. And then there's the guy who stops 100% of the time. So the difference between the two is not just like a 5% difference. It's that if you want the benefits of the red light, which is to protect you from getting into accidents, you can't just do it 95% of the time. Like you have to do it 100% of the time in order to guarantee the shmiras nefesh from that law, from that mitzvah. So the guy in the middle, the person that the pasuk is not talking about is the person who just like is like I don't want to call it half-hearted, but just not fully committed to doing the mitzvahs consistently. The shomer mitzvah is fully committed to doing the mitzvahs consistently, and therefore only about him can you say that he's shomer nafsho. Okay, So that's contrasting the shomer mitzvah with the oseh mitzvah, or like the the loose keeping of the mitzvah. So that's the first half. Okay, I'm gonna talk it out because I learned this with him at the beginning of the week, and I don't remember so clearly. Okay, but then you've got the guy who's boza drachav, who can't stand the idea of an absolute authority. So he may dabble in the mitzvah. Like, it's not like he's completely rejecting it, but he can't stand the idea of completely submitting himself to a mitzvah and doing it 100%. So what that's going to do is it's going to manifest itself in, he's certainly not going to keep the mitzvahs consistently, and he will be antagonistic towards the person who does keep the mitzvahs that way. And as a result of that, what's going to happen is he is going to subject himself to the consequences of that the mitzvahs are trying to protect him from. In other words, like this: the person who is vigilant in keeping the mitzvahs, who shomer mitzvah, will guarantee the results as much as guarantee as possible. The person who is just like half-heartedly keeping the mitzvahs may get some of the benefits, may not. But then the guy who is boza drachav is like guaranteeing that he is going to subject himself to those consequences. Like, if you are resistant to stopping at red lights, that resistance will yield a consequence at some point, because you are like, you're repelling yourself from the institution that's designed to protect you. So that's my recollection of what we had. So the way it's similar to what Joe's saying, Joe, you're saying like, if you are in conflict about the mitzvos, and that causes you to be mevazeh, then that's going to lead to consequences of yamos. It might be that your way is simpler than the way that Ken and I were reading it. The only thing that's slightly bothering me about that is that type of personality strong enough to say mevazeh? Because that's what Ken and I were drawn to. We were saying like shomer is one extreme and mevazeh is another extreme, and then there's a middle ground of like someone who's just neither militant against nor like vigilant to keep. What do you guys think? Like, well, I feel like both ideas are like dancing on the same territory here.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely close.
Yeah. And I guess what we were saying is
it's reminding me.
Yeah, go ahead, Deb.
No, it's reminding me of like different approaches to wearing masks.
Oh,
or like
yeah.
Like corona restrictions.
Yeah. Yeah, go. Okay, you want to say it, or you want?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess like you can like sort of wear the mask because you feel like it's you have to like it's actually an important thing and you need to protect yourself. And then you'll sort of like you'll do it 100% of the time. Or you could be a guy who like doesn't scorn it, but doesn't think it's important. He just like does it I guess when other people are around. And sort of that's like sort of like he's not against it, but he's not he doesn't do it for himself, I guess. And then there's another guy who's just like upset about it and like Dafka doesn't wear it or wears it like on his, like not over his nose or whatever, and like stick it in people's faces.
I was putting the nose guy in a second category you mentioned. In other words, there's the people who keep the mitzvah, and again here I think, by the way, I think it's pretty clear that this certainly could apply to mitzvos of Hashem, but I think this applies to any good mitzvah, like any good law or commandment. That's why I think the traffic light example works. But anyway, so you got the guy who is vigilant about it and does it properly and consistently. Then you've got the halfway guy who's not opposed to it, but those are the people who like, again, the people who wear it over their mouth and not over their nose. They're not relating to the mitzvah as connected to a reality, or they lack an understanding of what the reality is that the mitzvah is connected to. So they do it almost as like following a rule, but only in the minimalistic sense of like whatever allows them to feel like they can check off the checkbox, like they can do, but it's not a true shmira, And then there's the person who is bozeh, who is like, you can't tell me what to do, and like thrusts off, like is bothered by the authority of being told what to do, you know?
Yeah, actually, I have a story of Boza Drachov.
Okay.
This is not my story. This was my mom went somewhere like for I think it was like an engagement party or something in like a different community. And she was talking to someone, and the person was like, and I think my mom was like one of like the few people wearing a mask. This is in May. Oh, sorry, this is in May.
Okay.
So like there had been,
I don't know if that makes it better or worse that she was one of the few people wearing a mask, but go ahead.
This was like, there had been like the whole like 2-week shutdown, and then like and then sorry, 1 second. There had been the 2-week shutdown, and then like it was like a little bit like past. It was like past that. We're like she was one of the few people wearing a mask at this thing, and she was talking, and so someone was like, oh, like where are you from? And my mom said Far Rockaway, thinking it was going to be like one like regular conversation, and the person was like oh, you still wear masks there? Yeah, that was like the next thing that she said, like right, like, they're like so bothered. Like we moved past it. Why haven't you yet? Right.
I mean, it reminds me of also. I think I shared this with you. The comment that someone had on one of my YouTube videos early in the year when they saw like that I was wearing a mask, and the comment, it was such a YouTubey comment of like why are you wearing a mask? Are you afraid that your computer is going to get the virus, like is going to get COVID? What are you, virtue signaling? And then like the response that I had, I forgot exactly how I worded it, was like, I'm giving I'm giving shir in a yeshiva with people around, and like we actually just had to like someone just actually had to go into quarantine because like someone in their house got coronavirus. Like it was just this unleashing of like antagonism, Yeah. So the thing that I think about this that's interesting, and the reason why I think I prefer to apply it to all mitzvos and not just mitzvos of Hashem or mitzvos of Mishlei, is because the subject of the pasuk is your attitude towards mitzvos, towards commandments, and towards rules. And it's basically saying that like there are people who realize that a good rule will yield its results. A well-designed rule will yield its will like guarantee, or as much guarantee as possible, yield its results if you are vigilant about it, and you do it 100%. And they're willing to give up that personal freedom in order to assure that selfish in a good way benefit, And then you have the opposite guy who is so intent on not compromising any freedom or not wanting to be told what an authority does, that they will like subject themselves to harm by their resistance to obeying like laws, or obeying mitzvos, just because they can't tolerate the idea of someone telling them what to do. And then you've got the people in the middle, which is a different kind of foolishness, which is they don't have a problem with being told what to do, but they also don't relate to the mitzvahs as realities. Like they don't really relate to the mitzvah as having a real result, because if they understood that result, then why would you go 90%? Why wouldn't you go 100%? If you actually value that result.
Yeah, so I guess these are the people. These are like the extremes of the way that people relate to a mitzvah. Is that the people who really are like guarding it will be protected from the harm that the mitzvah protects you from.
Right.
And the people who scorn it will get that harm because they're not even like trying to apply. They're not going to be like sometimes applying it and maybe it'll all work. But the people in the middle will sometimes be protected, sometimes not, because they're only sometimes applying it. Yeah,
I think that's good. By the way, if I had to give Joe.
Yeah, in the middle category, though, I think there's somewhat of a distinction between different types of people. Like sometimes a person believes in the commandment, but there's just an alternative force. He believes in red lights, but this guy's in a big rush and needs to get somewhere. so he's going to run the red light, or any
Yeah.
other thing. He believes in going to chakras, but
Right.
he's super tired, you know,
Yeah.
versus a person who just doesn't necessarily believe in the commandment 100%. Like he doubts the statistics of red lights. I don't know. Like
Right.
he
Right,
doesn't
right. No,
fully
you're
buy
right.
into
There-
the thing inherently.
Right. There are many different types in between. I think that Isaac's right, that this is just the extremes in terms of your relationship to the to mitzvos, or to the idea of a rule. And this is not and I mean, the pasuk is not addressing the middle categories, but just that there. I just want to call attention to the fact that there is a middle category. By the way, I think the UMass, again, I don't know what Rabbeinu Yonah would say, and he takes a different approach than we did, but the type of explanation Rabbeinu Yonah would give. What's the difference between Yamus and Yumas? So Yamus is like a result. Yumas is like a death sentence. Like that's like most Yumas is like the way that the Torah says it. So it is interesting that you could say that it's alluding to the fact that if you embrace this approach of the Boza Drachov, it's like you're giving yourself a death sentence, as opposed to like it will happen that you will die, like you're sentencing yourself to death. I think that's like that's Rabbeinu Yonah type interpretation of a Krieg Ziv. Okay, so I think that's good for this pasuk. I guess what we'll do is tomorrow, someone tell me as soon as they know whether Rabbi Markowitz is giving shiur, and then we'll also have to decide whether I'm going to be there in person tomorrow, or whether the snow's supposed to continue through Friday, so we'll see. Yeah. And we'll see whether we do Mishlei, Q&A, or something else. Okay.
Okay.
All right. See you later.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. And again, sorry I'm not there in person, but
Makes
gotta
sense.
weigh the pros and cons. All right. Take care. Bye.